How's it going, ladies and Bruces? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Sekimeiya. We're heading to the attic now to see if we can find Naomi in there, although I'm sure we're not going to. We just found a dead policeman in the lobby in the last episode that we never saw before in the last run through at all. But apparently some of the characters are familiar with him at the very least, but he shouldn't have been in here, and we just recently found that secret door, but this time it has a door handle. We still can't open it, but there's a handle that makes it slightly easier. Let's get back into it. Nobody had spoken again by the time we arrived at the attic store, where everyone stopped. Atsuki looked at me and so did the others. It took me a few seconds to realize it was because I had the key, and when I did, I remembered we hadn't locked it when we'd left. I stepped forward, sensing that Atsuki was trying to tell me to hide that fact so we didn't cause an unnecessary conflict with Katai. My body was hiding the keyhole, so I inserted the key and turned it. It was already unlocked, but I casually pulled the door toward me and took the key back out. Nobody called me out, as I'd easily looked nonchalant. I glanced upward and began to ascend the staircase. Also, Shiroya's seeming very dodgy in this one so far, even more than last time. On the floor, traces of Atsuki and me could be noticed, so I stared at them silently before walking in. The elevator doesn't work, so stay here. When Akado and Katai arrived, they went with Sai, curious to see if anything was to be found. The attic was composed of only a few rooms, so they made quick work of inspecting them. I suppose it's possible someone's on one of the middle floors, but given that we found the storeroom's secret door, I think it much more likely that was how Naomi managed to escape. Yes, you can stop suggesting we covered for Naomi, since it wasn't our plan to go search alone. I suppose we might as well stay here if we're going to remain in one place. That's true, it's the most comfortable area. What? No, that's not a good idea. Listen, this place has beds, and I don't want to sit on the floor for over 6 hours. After hearing that, Katai did immediately stop him, and Sai took his chance to go straight to a bedroom. Having beds and a sofa sounded good to everyone, so he stood in front of the two doors. Sai opened the right one. We've already been here, so given the circumstances, I can't order you all to leave. However, do understand how important it is that you don't damage or break anything. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, man, we're not a rock band. Behind Sai, Akado and Katai entered the bedroom. As each one had 3 beds, Edna entered the left one, with Isla being the last two. Atsuki and I quietly made our way in as well. Do you want to be down here or up top? I don't care. No, you can choose. Either one is okay. What about you two? Atsuki and I shrugged. Let's go up then. You'll have a bed all for yourself. Isla nodded and went up the ladder. From below, we heard them sitting on the 2 beds. Do you feel well? I see. Try to sleep if you can then. Everything will go by much faster. We were eavesdropping on them, but since I hadn't closed the hatch, it was their own fault. Atsuki and I sat on the single bed we had and lay back. A killer had been with us in the tower. That was a guarantee. Going off the atmosphere, it seemed everyone was trying to feel safe by staying together. It could also have been that they assumed that the man had only been killed because he was a policeman, and the rest of us would be left alone. Do you need a pillow? I'm fine. After a deep sigh, Atsuki closed his eyes. Have you thought about what we talked about? Regarding Akashik Park? I know I said that we could wait till the summer, but we can go during the first week of January if you want. It's okay, I think it's better to wait. Are you sure? Yeah, I don't like the cold. Let's go in the summer. I see. Alright, I'm glad you made up your mind. Silence. If I may. Out of nowhere, Sai burst in and walked to the drawer. What are you doing? Oh, I'm looking in these drawers for no reason whatsoever. Once he'd gone through all of them and the wardrobe, he went up the ladder. By the sound he was making, he was doing the same with the wardrobe above. He soon came back and left without explaining himself. At least he closed the door. As soon as Sai left, Atsuki lay back. All I could assume was that he'd been looking for the Sekimeiya or something. I looked at my purse. Thankfully, I hadn't demanded to look inside it, but knowing that it could happen at any moment made me very uneasy. What's in it? Sai said, had shut the hatch, so I could no longer hear Edna and Isla. Sorry. At my left was Atsuki, resting face up on a white pillow. That image of him with his eyes closed was one that I'd started to get used to. However, I could no longer think that his mind was completely blank. I knew for a fact that he was silently plotting something, and that it was basically guaranteed to work. Whatever plan or conclusion he'd thought of, I wouldn't be able to stop it, so it was smarter to let him be. While I couldn't help but explore the idea of going to the past myself, I had no motivation to do so, and I didn't even know what to do if the chance ever presented itself. I began to hear voices coming from the other side of the door, but they were too muddled to understand. When they faded away, I thought I'd finally be able to try to take a rest. Sorry, I figured I'd let you know about this. I lifted my head slightly and saw him holding a note. What does it say? It was pretty hidden in the kitchen. I'll read it for you. Sir, I've done as you instructed, and I didn't spot any difference in the attic since Shin's last attack. I believe it wasn't targeted. I've finished this month's preservations, but some paint has begun to wear off, so next month I'll attempt to fix it on my own. Until then, thank you for your trust, and let me know if you have any new requests. Naomi. So it's a note that Naomi left for Ashiya. It's what Katai said, that she kept this attic in a good state. I appreciate that you let us know, even if it doesn't mean much to us. No problem. I'll go tell Edna and Isla, but they seem very close to falling asleep. And we didn't? Guess not. I closed my eyes. The light was right above us, so I put an arm over my face as well. Why don't we turn the light off? Finally, some time began to pass. I wasn't tired enough to fall asleep, but lying down was surprisingly relaxing. I kept breathing as deeply as I could, appreciating the silence. Did you notice what Sai did? What do you mean? When he left, he walked toward the living room, and he hasn't come back yet. Oh, did he? I didn't pay attention. It's already been a few minutes. Do you have any idea where the Sekimeiya could be? Me? No, not at all. If it's not outside, it must be hidden pretty well. Yeah, I had a couple of ideas for hiding spots. You didn't look at them when we searched? Well, no, one of them requires unscrewing a computer tower. I also thought that maybe one of the keys that you could open Naomi's locker. I doubt it was just hidden like that, especially since it seemed to disappear from the mechanical room. I'm not even sure that anyone could have moved it. I went quiet, wondering if the scheme I thought he was constructing was already in his head. He didn't seem to fully understand how the Sekimeiya worked. He's still not back. Did you want to go look for him? I think we should. I doubt he knew where the Sekimeiya was, since he was searching in this room as well, but nobody from the other room has followed him. I tried not to sigh and shut my eyes forcibly. The attic wasn't locked, so the thought of going through the building again was dreadful. I lifted my body up with both hands, all while thinking about how much I wanted to stay on that bed. Oh shit, we get a choice? Man, we haven't had one of those in a while. Save. You know I want to stay. We're gonna rock stay and we're gonna get a bad ending, but let's do it anyway. The huge mountain had a delicate structure. A single modification could collapse it beyond repair. To prevent that, the structure could be partially frozen. But that wasn't all. It could also be reshaped. Reshaped in a way so that all would connect firmly, and so that causality was maintained. See, I got it right that time. Shiroya and Atsuki stayed in the attic. So had gone to the crystal floor, but they didn't follow him down. Shiroya let out a sigh. They had no strength left, so they kept resting, trying to ignore what was happening around them. Closing their eyes on top of the bed would quickly begin to allow them to temporarily divorce from reality, and no noise prevented it. Very soon both of them had abandoned consciousness. For a long time stillness persisted, and even if the sound could have been sensed, there was none. Atsuki woke up. His mouth was dry, and the ceiling light shined brightly on his eyes. Soon, though, he understood why he was awake. Faint noises were sporadically reaching his ears. He looked down and saw Shiroya sleeping very close to him, but he refrained from alerting her. His unconscious mind had taken the liberty of waking him up on the smallest perception, so he waited warily to see if he could discern what the noises were. However, the answer revealed itself. After some quiet seconds, Atsuki saw the door's handle turning, and once it had opened, a recognizable figure behind it. Atsuki, Shiroya, come to the living room. I need to show you something. Immediately after tossing out that mysterious request, Sai walked away. As Atsuki tried to process the almost surreal way in which Sai had shown up, Shiroya's moaning made him turn to her waking face. Was that Sai? What did he want? Did you hear him? He told us to go to the living room, that he had something to show us and went back there. What? Shiroya yawned, but she couldn't help the intrigue. So it only called for both of them, and nobody from the opposite bedroom could be heard. Then, as he hadn't come back, they forced their tired bodies to stand up and attentively walk to the hallway. The door to the living room was closed. Atsuki opened it inwardly and hesitantly glanced in. Sai wasn't there. However, on the sofa, a recognizable shining egg lay next to the many footprints that indicated someone had walked on the floor very recently. Sai, where the hell are you? Atsuki and Shiroya slowly stepped forward, confirming that he was neither there nor in the staircase. The Sekimeiya, presented without context, must have been what Sai had wanted to show them. As Sai had seemingly vanished, both of them wondered whether he'd intended for them to activate it. That thought was denied when footsteps came from the hallway. Turning around, they saw Sai standing plainly in front of them. Well, there it is. I brought it here from the crystal floor. It wasn't even well hidden. Is that so? He had found it. Nonetheless, what Atsuki and Shiroya wondered was why he'd taken it there. I don't know what I'm all about. I don't know what I'm about to say will how what I'm about to say will sound, but I think I've come to understand what this thing really does. Huh? The Sekimeiya, whatever it is, it can do much more than make one travel through time. I don't think I should just explain it to you two. I've had time to learn how it functions. It's incredible. Atsuki and Shiroya could hardly reply. Was Sai telling the truth? They'd found out that Sekimeiya had the power to make one travel back in time, but they'd failed to notice the true extent of its capabilities. Speechless from the anticipation, they followed Sai to the hallway. He picked up the gemstone without making direct contact with it. There, everyone was cool. Edna and Isla had fallen asleep. Akado watched with concern, sitting on the lowest bed in the other bedroom. When everyone reunited in the hallway, Sai repeated the same thing he told Atsuki and Shiroya. What the fuck does that mean? What else can the Sekimeiya do? Akado was the first one to react strongly to such an assertion. That's what I will show you. However, I have my reasons to not explain what I don't want to. Again, what the hell does that mean? It means that if after this you don't want to believe what I'm saying, it won't be my problem. What? Everyone was confused by Sai's attitude. What was he trying to accomplish exactly? However, I'll make sure you believe me. The Sekimeiya's powers are much greater than you think. Sai opened the door to the right bedroom. Just so nobody thinks I'm trying to pull something, you can check whether there's anything strange in this bedroom. What could there be? I don't know. But it's so that you don't try to find objections later. Even though nobody understood what exactly Sai was getting at, Shiroya, Atsuki and Akado followed his suggestion. Both levels of the bedroom were inspected and nothing stood out. Alright, good. It seems you're all eager to see what this thing can do. Unfortunately, you won't see it directly. The cameras aren't recording, so nobody will. Sai, still holding the glowing gem, took a couple of steps into the bedroom and left it on the floor. Then he approached the door and closed it from the inside. I will now lock the bedroom. From the other side of the door, Sai proceeded to set the chain. In the hallway, everyone exchanged dumbfounded looks. Lastly, Sai locked the door with its key, which he got from one of the drawers. I'm about to touch the Sekimeiya to travel to the past. Faint footsteps came from inside the bedroom, which very shortly ceased. The next thing they heard was the door opening behind them. There we go. Now the Sekimeiya is isolated inside. It will do everything by itself. Sai had come from the opposite bedroom, where Atsuki and Shiroya had been sleeping. I travelled a few seconds to the past from room to room. What the fuck are you even doing? Atsuki, why don't you search me? Search you? Check that I have nothing on myself for the same reason. Atsuki gave a sigh of frustration but conceded. Aside from the personal belongings in one of his back pockets, Sai didn't have anything else. However, Atsuki noticed something. Is your watch not working? It isn't. It stopped working earlier, unfortunately, so we won't be able to measure the time. Anyway, I'm glad you're following along. Now Isla, mind telling me a number? A number? Why? You'll see. 9. 9. I was expecting a longer one, but that's fine. Shiroya, say a letter. Huh? C. Perfect. Now we have to wait. Wait for what? For the Sekimeiya to work. I bet you all assumed it had to be touched to activate it. I don't think any of us are following. What would the Sekimeiya do exactly? Actually, I'm not completely sure myself. It can do anything, so we'll see. Some time from now, it'll make a sound. That'll tell us it worked. Some time from now? Nobody understood yet what Sai was talking about or why he was doing anything that they were saying. It shouldn't take very long. If I'm right and understand how the Sekimeiya functions, it won't take many minutes. Since it was clear that Sai wouldn't explain himself further, everyone decided to continue humouring him and waited. What kind of sound would the Sekimeiya make? Everyone's senses had sharpened, but meanwhile the silence was pure. Oh, I didn't mention it, but obviously, the door is now completely locked. Both the chain and the lock are in effect. A couple of minutes had gone by when Sai pointed out that part of the setup. He grabbed the handle and tried to open the door to demonstrate it wasn't possible. It doesn't matter much, but you can see that I'm not lying about this. Atsuki repeated what Sai had attempted and confirmed that the door couldn't be opened. So currently we have no way to enter this room. Oh fuck, actually I might have overlooked something. For the first time, Sai looked uncertain. He rapidly turned around and opened the opposite bedroom. When he came back, he had a key in his hand. I forgot both bedrooms had a key. This one shouldn't work though, right? Nobody was sure. Sai inserted the key in the keyhole, but he couldn't turn it. Alright, it doesn't work. Good. So the lock is effective. After their brief interlude, the standby was resumed. It had been confirmed that they had no way to open the door, which told everyone that somehow it was going to open. Otherwise, the Sekimeiya would get stuck on the other side. How much longer are we going to wait? You don't have much patience, do you? We've waited for magic to appear. It's only been a few minutes. The exact time even I don't know. It almost felt ridiculous, but they kept waiting, wondering if Sai was just messing with them. About 10 minutes had gone by. There it is! A metallic sound startled everyone but Sai. They stared at the locked door, as it had come from behind it. Hey look, did this change? Didn't this change? Everyone looked at Sai's palm. A key was on it, but everyone recognised it looked slightly different that it had moments prior. It wasn't the wrong one anymore. Are you just fucking with us? What, did the key appear in your hands out of nowhere? No, Akira, that's not it. It modified the other key. That's one of the powers the Sekimeiya possesses. That sound was the cue that it did what I thought it would do. Sai didn't give anyone a chance to object. Opting to insert the key into the keyhole, he swiftly turned it, and the door unlocked with a small click. You remember the chain as well, right? Don't think that bypassing it is something the Sekimeiya is incapable of. Once the main lock had been removed, Sai pushed the door open. No resistance prevented him from doing so the chain wasn't set anymore. As he kept slowly opening the door, everyone thought the same thing. Sai was putting on a show. Nobody knew why, but they'd come to understand him enough to be certain of that. When the entire bedroom came into view, so did the most important thing inside. On the floor, where the Sekimeiya had been, there was only a square piece of paper. Isla, do you mind going to pick that up? Curious, she took a tiny step into the room. She bent down to grab the paper and turned around. Then she read the black letters written on it. 9C. That's what it says. Is that it? Did the Sekimeiya hear the number and letter? And it materialised that? Precisely. Atsuki tried not to laugh, not particularly because he found it that unbelievable, but because of what Sai's entire charade had led to. He took the liberty of going to the second level, where he didn't immediately see the Sekimeiya either, nor anything of importance. You're wondering where the Sekimeiya is, right? Don't worry, I'll tell you. After it does something that requires more power than usual, it teleports to his cabinet. I'm not sure why yet, but it's what I learned. You'll see, follow me. Sai exited the room. As the show hadn't ended, the rest followed him, still unsure how to feel. They walked to the crystal floor and entered the event room. When the cabinet was uncovered, they could clearly see what was inside. Not only that, but the cabinet was locked. There you have it. There's a glimpse of what the Sekimeiya can do. Why have you done all this though? Rather than be amazed, Atsuki asked what everyone had been wondering. To demonstrate all your misconceptions regarding the Sekimeiya. However, as I said, I didn't want to detail exactly how it works. That's why I did it in a way that you could witness it without understanding it fundamentally. This thing possesses immense power and I can't reveal what I learned about it. We can't take it out of here again. You said you demonstrate all our misconceptions, but I can easily think of why you could have done this simply by travelling to the past. How? Isn't it obvious? Now all you have to do is activate the Sekimeiya. If you really understand how it works, you can make it send you to the past, to the locked bedroom. There, you will leave a piece of paper and make the noise we heard. Before we enter, you'll touch the Sekimeiya and vanish from the room, once again to the past. That could be why you locked the door, so that we wouldn't open it immediately after hearing the noise. You definitely didn't prove that the Sekimeiya is able to materialise a piece of paper. It is true that after that, it might have teleported from the attic to the cabinet. That's the most believable part of what you're claiming though. Sai looked surprised. How about this then? I will never touch the Sekimeiya again, I promise that. You promise? Yes, as I said, we should leave it in the cabinet and never take it out until the shutter opens. If I never touch it, I can't do what you speculate. What will you do then? Travel to the past without touching it? Maybe that's possible. No, you don't understand. I will never travel to the past again. Everything's already over, and the Sekimeiya did it all. Listen, Atsuki, I can prove what you said didn't happen. If it had, another version of myself would have to be somewhere in the tower right now. Let's confirm that version of me doesn't exist. Wait, Shinoya objected. I can think of another way, if we're supposed to believe what you're saying now. Another way, underwhelmingly what Sai had intended to be confirmation of the Sekimeiya's more extensive powers, could be refuted in more than one method. It is possible you never really travelled to the past again, but another version of you could. I remember when you made Atsuki and me go to the living room. Back then, you weren't there and you appeared from the hallway. That might already be another version of you. If you lured us out from the bedroom, your original version might have gone there to hide under the bed. From there, you heard what we were talking about in the hallway and about 9C. It'll be that version of you who will travel to the past and appear inside the bedroom, where you'll leave the note. Then, you'll use the Sekimeiya to go back to the past again, and you'll appear before us in the living room to play out the rest. Did you even hear me? If that's what happened, another version of myself should still exist somewhere. Let's see whether we can find him. Not necessarily. If when we saw the note the other version of yours got out from under the bed and hurried here, you could have already travelled to the past. You're pissing me off a little. How about this? That didn't happen either. And you can prove that? Not exactly sure what you did, but was it just to make us believe that you have a great understanding of the Sekimeiya and get us to not take it out of the cabinet again? Yes, you're not wrong about that. Well, I can give you a third way you could have accomplished this just by travelling to the past. Atsuki explained it with a casual voice. Like I said, what I could believe is that the Sekimeiya can teleport itself. If you really came to understand how that works, I remember when you claimed to have forgotten about the key to the other bedroom. But I don't believe you really did. That could easily have been an excuse to disappear from our sight. After all, you asked to be searched, but only before you entered the other bedroom. It's possible that you got both keys from that room and initially only showed us one. However, it's also possible the Sekimeiya teleported there. You touched it, went to the past, to the right bedroom, you placed the note, touched the Sekimeiya before it teleported away. You went back in time and appeared in the second level of the bedroom. This way, as soon as you entered it, the version of you who'd already placed the note got out, and you showed us the wrong key, and you'd already done everything. Aren't you forgetting something? What? The noise, how would I have done that? Oh, I see. I said you travelled to the past before the Sekimeiya teleported away, which must have been before we heard the noise. However, there are two ways around this. One, the Sekimeiya teleported itself to the past after you made the noise. That would solve it, if it's possible. Two, the Sekimeiya teleported itself to the opposite bedroom and then back to the initial one. That's how you could have stayed there for longer and made the sound. How about this? That didn't happen either, you're just wrong. In fact, I really did overlook that the other bedroom had a key as well. It's not part of what I intended to do. I don't think so. Next, it was Arcado who objected. After all, your silly trick ended with the wrong key transformed into the correct one. That couldn't have happened if you hadn't had the wrong key, meaning you knew from the start you'd go to the other bedroom to pick it up. God, that was not part of the plan at all. All I knew was that the right key would appear on me after the Sekimeiya sound. I didn't know it would transform the wrong one. That's very hard to believe. Shinoya had one last input. I bet the way you locked the room from the inside was part of your trick too. You set the chain and then locked the door with the key. That created the illusion of that the Sekimeiya had unset the chain. But it could have been as simple as you unsetting it right after locking the door. It's not like we would have noticed. I actually didn't think about that. However, I didn't do it. I also bet the reason behind that we have to wait for the Sekimeiya to make a sound is so you could properly time whatever you did. You had to wait a specific amount of time for it to function. Incorrect. And you can prove all of this. Yes. How? By doing it again. Annoyed, Sai asked for the key to the cabinet. Everyone was too intrigued, so they agreed to let him unlock it. He picked up the Sekimeiya without touching it with his skin and left the room. Let's go back up. You can do the same thing again. Can you not do it in the bathrooms? I can, but that's not as aesthetic. A few eyes rolled, but they followed Sai up to the attic. Once again, everyone was in front of the two bedroom doors. Atsuki entered the right one and checked the drawer. The key wasn't there. If the wrong key transformed into the right one, how come the original one isn't here? Because you can't have two of the same, dumbass. Come here. So that you can't think of any other self of mine is hiding nearby, go ahead and verify that. You realise it could just appear after we search, right? That's fine. Edna and Isla saw the rest dispersing through the attic and shortly coming back, claiming not to have found anyone. Repeating his past movements, Sai stepped into the right bedroom and placed the Sekimeiya on the floor, close to the door. Here, he stood in silence. What are you waiting for? I'm thinking about the best way to do this so you don't have 100 excuses later. He was in thought for a couple of minutes. I'm sure he said he was going to show us, and if we didn't believe him, that's not his problem. Sure as shit looks like it's his problem to me, because he's still trying to fucking convince us. So much for that, right? He was in thought for a couple of minutes, then, looking composed, he walked to the door and closed it from the inside. I'll only set the chain this time so that Shiroya abandons her idiotic idea. The Sai spoke. Only one thought filled Atsuki's brain. I know what you want to do. He purposefully left Sai out by ignoring one last way in which he could have achieved the same result. Careful not to alert him, Atsuki walked to the light switch and turned off the light in the hallway. What he had in mind was very simple. Sai would fake his travel. He claimed to be about to touch the Sekimeiya, to lock the room from the inside and appear outside. However, he wouldn't actually touch it. Instead, he would stay in the bedroom. That way we would hear what was being talked about in the hallway. At some point, after having written the note, he would touch the Sekimeiya and go minutes back to the past. He would appear somewhere in the attic and claim that he'd just set the chain and travelled out of the room, when in reality, he would have already left the note. Then, he would ask for the specific number and wait out the time he'd spent in the bedroom before opening the door and finding the note. Alright, it's set. Now I'll touch the Sekimeiya and appear in the past outside the bedroom. Atsuki gestured at everyone to keep quiet, and he'd also closed every other door in the hallway. By shutting off the light, he wanted to reveal Sai's trick. He looked down. From under the door, light was seen, as the bedroom was illuminated. However, what Atsuki had achieved was highlighting Sai's shadow. His body was blocking the light from going through the entire gap. This is how Atsuki intended to expose him. If that shadow didn't instantly disappear, he could prove that Sai hadn't teleported out of the bedroom. Sai took 2 steps into the room, but his shadow was still acting as a barrier for the ceiling light. Atsuki wanted to verify Sai's bluff and quickly turned the light back on. That was because a future version of him must be nearby after having already placed the note. If he could know what Atsuki was doing, it was possible his idea would retroactively fail. However, Atsuki was confident that it still prevents Sai from completing his setup without a hole. Like the last time, after 2 steps the sound faded. The Sekimeiya was on the floor, but near the door. That meant that even though Sai had to crouch to activate it, his shadow would still be visible from the other side. Atsuki stared down. The gap was very thin and certainly not big enough to see through. As such, using Sai's shadow was all he could do. Sai's steps were purposefully audible. However, that time, they took longer to cease, and bigger gaps were between them. Before crouching, the shadow moved left and right, as if in thought. It seemed like Sai was conscious of his movements. I'm about to touch it. Alright. Gone. But despite his confidence, Atsuki saw it unmistakably. The shadow disappeared in an instant. It hadn't moved away. It had vanished. Disconcerted, Atsuki still managed to react properly. He dashed to the light switch and turned it on. Moments later, the door to the living room opened. Alright, I appeared here this time since we just came from the crystal floor. Alright, let's do this again. Atsuki tried not to look frustrated, as Sai didn't seem to have noticed what he'd attempted. What Atsuki had tried made sense. He had assumed that the least important part of Sai's show had been what the trick relied on. However, he'd been incorrect. The only reason Sai had done that had been for the spectacle, to be able to claim that the Sekimeiya had unset the chain, and nowhere had that part been necessary to accomplish the rest. It had not been a deception. Right after setting the chain and locking the door, Sai touched the Sekimeiya and travelled to the past outside the bedroom. By doing that, he left both levels of the bedroom truly devoid of life. That was why Atsuki's very first solution had been that Sai would, in the future, travel to the past again and appear inside the right bedroom after it had been locked. Yet that was also wrong. To make that note appear, Sai wouldn't travel back to the bedroom. As a matter of fact, he hadn't done it before they'd seen it either. Incidentally, nobody had, or ever would, as he'd worked alone. So he was more frustrated than he looked, by the way Atsuki had acted. He hated feeling like someone was being superior to him. Sai approached the door and grabbed a handle. When he turned it, a chain prevented him from opening the door. The chain is set, see? He didn't want me to lock the door from the inside, so I'll do it from here. Sai made his left hand a fist and slowly opened it up, as if it were a flower. The key was on his palm. You're a clown. Am I, Akaro? Because you seemed very interested to figure out how exactly the Sekimeiya works. What the fuck are you talking about? Sai ignored him and inserted the key into the keyhole, then he turned it. Why are you locking the door if it's already locked from the inside? Because the chain provides a gap that you can see through. I don't want anyone seeing how the Sekimeiya writes on a note. Don't worry, this time I won't go anywhere. Let's do what we did before then. Isla gave me 3 numbers, from 1 to 9. Hang on. Give me 3 numbers from 1 to 9. Hang on, I'll give you 3 numbers. Atsuki didn't want to give him any way out. That's fine by me. but Atsuki didn't open his mouth. Just like Sai, he formed one fist, followed with the other. Then he stuck out 2 fingers, next 6, and finally 9. Those have been his 3 numbers. Oh, certainly, Atsuki. We could do it like this. Atsuki had done that to prevent something they'd mentioned earlier. If another version of Sai had appeared nearby, he could not have heard the numbers. All the doors were closed, so Atsuki's hands couldn't have been seen either. Now, do not speak about them or move in any way. Sai nodded as he smirked. Do we also have to wait a random amount of time? A random amount of time? We'll see. Even if they weren't sure of the real reason, everyone next to Sai felt in some way that he was trying to deceive them. However, his attitude was beginning to feel imposing. Did he truly want to leave the Sekimeiya in the cabinet? That couldn't be. So then what exactly had he figured out? Atsuki had asked for silence, so that his 3 numbers wouldn't be transmitted for anyone within reach. Because of that, everyone waited silently, and for longer than before. 10 minutes had gone by and everyone started to realise that they'd surpassed the previous endpoint. "54, 55, 56. Sai began to whisper very quietly, so that only the people right next to him could hear him, puzzling them. 57, 58, 59... 17. I had to count internally since my watch doesn't work, but it's been 17 minutes since we began to wait. What? 17 minutes. 2 plus 6 plus 9. Remember when you said I'd waited an arbitrary amount of time to time everything properly? I'm glad I can now be certain I understand how to use the Sekimeiya. It's the numbers that they gave him. Sai inserted the key into the keyhole and unlocked the door. When he tried to push it open, the chain didn't stop him, as it was no longer set. The Sekimeiya unfastened the chain, right? Was it you? Are you my accomplice who helped me do this? If not, I'm open to alternatives. 6 pairs of eyes saw the identical scene. The Sekimeiya disappeared and a small piece of paper had appeared on the floor. Isla walked up to it and picked it up. She showed it to the others. 296, 296, 296, 296. The 3 numbers Atsuki had chosen filled up the entire surface of the paper. Attempting not to look flustered, he made his way to the 2nd level of the bedroom. There was nothing of importance to be seen. Like before, after it was done, the Sekimeiya produced that sound and teleported to its cabinet on the crystal floor. The second time that claim was harder to believe, as they'd just come from there. On the way down, it was much more difficult for everyone to find an explanation for what Sai had done. When they arrived at the event room, they saw the same thing as before. We didn't even lock it after we took it out, right? Atsuki noticed the arrow on the side of the cabinet was pointing to locked. We didn't. It might be hard to take in, but the Sekimeiya did. That's what I intended to happen. Are you just fucking joking? What's this, a magical stone that can do anything? You thought it could only make one go back in time? Would that be much better? However, there's still a principal way in which you could have accomplished this that requires you travelling to the past. Correct. It's possible that in the future, I'll go back to the past and appear in the locked bedroom, then I'll write the note and touch the Sekimeiya, which will send me further to the past. But that'll not happen. I purposefully left this method possible, so you can believe my intentions, that I sincerely don't want the Sekimeiya to be taken out of the cabinet again. That could go horribly. My wristwatch doesn't work anymore. I don't know if I can fix it. You have no other way to look at the time. It'll be hard, but we'll spend every minute left together so that I can't go to the past and explain this your way. Additionally, before that, we can search the whole tower to make sure this version of me that is the method that would have left behind doesn't exist. Once this happens, you will understand. There is no other way I could have done this. But what I'm saying, this is only a glimpse of what the Sekimeiya is capable of. That, I'm sure of. Nobody could find words to reply with, let alone object to it. So, as Atsuki's way out seemed to exist, they went with Sai's proposition. The 7 floors of Ashiya Tower were inspected and nobody was found. Not any other self of Sai, and not Naomi either. Before the search had started, Sai had taken the Sekimeiya out of the cabinet and brought it with them, so nobody could use it in the meantime. What if after touching the Sekimeiya in the bedroom, Sai would appear outside the tower? Not even would that explain everything. Not even that would explain everything, and it could be avoided as long as they stayed with him. So lastly, they had to wait. After locking the attic behind them, they sat on the floor of the event room. They positioned the curtain so that it wouldn't fall down, providing a constant view of the glass. The idea to save Mia didn't go anywhere. During the following hours, it was a surreal silence that everyone shared. There were no tricks left. The few times anyone had to go to the bathroom, it was made sure nothing else happened. Finally, they'd managed to wait until 9 o'clock, keeping the cold in the cabinet sealed. And with that, we're going to wrap this episode up here. It looks like we might be at the end of chapter 2. I don't know. That went by a lot faster though. And that was an interesting one. Very interesting. So it seems like this thing can do anything. Like Akuro said. Why does Sai always have to be so cryptic? Why is he so unwilling to tell us what he's learned? There's more to him than we know, apart from being an asshole. Anyway, I guess we'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.